In the last lecture, we created our nzbox auth db context, and we also injected that inside the program.cs file inside the services collection. Now it's about time to create the roles, and we want to seed some roles into the database so that when we do a user registration, we can supply these roles and create a user with these roles. So for that, we have to seed some data using entity framework, and we are inside the nzbox auth db context. And here we will use the on model creating method. So we'll use the override method. So override, and it's the on model creating method. We get a structure back. In here, after the base.onModel creating method is used, we will seed some data for the roles, and for that we have to create a list of roles first. So let's create a variable called roles is equal to new list of type identity role, and that's the type of role that we have. It's identity role. And that comes from Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Identity package. So select that. And inside this list, we will have two roles. So let's create the first identity role. In here, we have four properties, which is the ID, name, normalized name, and the concurrency stamp. So let's start with the ID first. And the ID over here is a string, but we'll use a GUID and then convert it into a string. So let's say over here on top of roles, we create two GUIDs. So the first one will be a reader ID is equal to, and let's create the GUID from inside Visual Studio. And we have the C# interactive window over here, but you can get it from View, Other Windows, and open the C# interactive window over here. In here, we can use the GUID.newGUID method to create a new GUID. So copy the new GUID and paste it over here. And we would need one more for the writer ID. So writer ID, or you can say reader role ID and writer role ID is equal to a new string, and let's generate a new GUID. And let's copy that value, paste it over here. So now we have two unique identifiers. So the first role is the reader role. So let's use the ID for the reader role. And after that, we'll use the same for the concurrency stamp as well, is equal to reader role ID. Then we have the name of this role, which is reader. And after that, we have the normalized name, which is also reader, and if in case you can have this as toUpper. And this is the first role that we have, which is the reader role. The second role that we want to create will be similar, and which will be for the writer role. So new identity role, let's provide the ID first. So that's the writer role ID. Then the concurrency stamp is writer role ID. After that, we have the name of this role, which is writer, and the normalized name as writer.toUpper. So now we have a list of roles ready with us. We now have to seed this inside the builder object over here. So we will use the builder.entity, and we want to have this as the identity role, and we will use the hasData method to provide the list of roles to this entity. So when we run Entity Framework Core migrations now, it will see this data that we have to inject these two roles. If the roles don't exist in the database, this Entity Framework Core migrations will add or seed this data into the database. So in the next lecture, we will come back and run Entity Framework Core migrations and create these new tables and data for our identity solution.